Nice on Spaces. Who's that? Who's breathing? Is that you, Alex?
I'm not sure if it's me, man. I thought I was muted, so it's a little
You,
little scary, fitting to
you had
Halloween.
yeah, you had the mute icon, but you're sitting there breathing.
Yeah, I used to breathe every now and then.
Ay, ay, ay.
All right, man.
Creepy,
So
man.
welcome,
Start the
welcome
Spaces and
to.
don't say anything, but sit there and breathe.
Welcome to Mintmap Spaces, everyone. It's a beautiful Friday, another beautiful Friday actually. We jumped onto November. I hope everyone had a great Halloween party yesterday. Maybe I guess Jason, you didn't party, right? But yeah, we're jumping in today. I think we want to talk a little bit about the art that you created. I definitely do want to because people may not know, but you're doing a lot of that stuff on your own. Like you're getting your inspirations, and I get like the final piece. And I'd love to know a little bit about what inspires you, how you actually work, and everything. So yeah, you may Thomas hopefully showing up today as well. So yeah, we hope to welcome him too. But first of all, man, how did you get through Halloween, and how was your night yesterday?
Halloween was good, man. This past month was crazy. So, with in terms of hours put in and like artwork put out, like the output was probably the one of the biggest workloads I've had. And then in addition to that, negotiating behind the scenes, and then also having conversations with Floppy Labs, which I'm still having conversations with over the whole over rectifying the staking thing. So it was a pretty crazy month, and to have the last 10 days culminate with lots of art going out was, it was a big challenge. No two ways about it. Lots of hard work, but you get one compliment, or you make one person happy and it makes it all worthwhile. So for me, um that was just part of it. It was hard and rewarding at the same time, I guess you'd say, if I had to sum it up in one sentence. But yeah, Halloween was awesome. After the mint yesterday, I basically took the rest of the day off, and wifey was here, and we have a little tradition that we do on Halloween. She makes homemade sourdough bread and homemade tomato soup, and so she made like homemade grilled cheese sandwiches with homemade sourdough bread, and we had soup, and then we sat back, and we had the kids coming. We had the front door lit up and the jack-o'-lantern and the whole nine, and kids are coming, and we're just chilling, having some food, watching a couple episodes of Yellowstone, and just enjoyed the night. And it's kind of fun to watch her give out candy to kids and talk to the little ones. She really enjoys interacting with like the tiny little kids that can, barely trick or treat yet. And that's always kind of cute. So it was good, man. And weather is awesome. It's that time of the year here where everyone really wants to be here. And, so for the next 5 or 6 months, it's just going to be gorgeous, cool weather. So it's fantastic. How about you, man? What goes on in Germany this time of year?
Well, my Halloween was not very special, to be honest. Like I think I mentioned it last time. Germans do not celebrate it as much as Americans do. My doorbell did not ring once yesterday, so even if I was prepared, having like some candy or something, I wouldn't have been able to hand it out. So yeah, it's actually like I'm not sure why. I always thought that Halloween would have like some sort of hype. Coming over from the United States, as we used to copy everything you guys do, but I don't know, man. I'm not sure what it's about Halloween, but somehow it's not getting as big here. I'm not sure how it is in other parts of Europe. Maybe Bilo can tell us. Um, but yeah, my night was not that special. Went to bed at like 10 p.m. and yeah, crazy. I'm like I already feel like some sort of grumpy old man going to bed early on Halloween, and everyone is asking me today, "Hey, how was your Halloween night?" And everyone is expecting crazy stories, and then I'm like, "Yeah, I fell asleep." Not too exciting. I wish I could tell more interesting stories here.
Yeah, for sure. I thought Halloween would definitely be a bigger deal. So not a big deal in Germany at all, or just in your area?
It's mostly like for small kids, like 7, 8, 9-year olds go around and do the trick or treat thing. But the students and young people probably go out partying as well, but that's basically it. It's not that the whole country is all about it and look forward to dress scary and stuff like that. So yeah, the most Halloween thing that happened here is probably, or that happens here is probably, like they're showing Nightmare on Elm Street for like the 50th time. Every year. It's like Home Alone, on Christmas. You can see that every year. So that's the only Halloween thing happening here.
All right. Nightmare on Elm Street, huh? Then going back and getting the classics. I guess that's not nothing. That's pretty American thing to do, I think, too, is, kind of watch horror movies, old horror movies, for example. But yeah, it was nice. I think it was cool because, with Halloween happening yesterday, it looked like most of Twitter kind of disappeared, which was really kind of nice to see. We had obviously a bunch of activity yesterday in Discord, people trading stuff around, and which was kind of cool at the same time. But it was also nice to see people just kind of disconnect and disappear. So it seems like most of the crypto X world has decided to take the weekend off, which I'm really happy to see. So small numbers online today would be a great thing. I think people need to definitely take time and unplug. Last night was certainly something I needed, and then going into November after after a busy end to the month. I guess Artober was interesting because it was the last 10 days that were so intense, and then leading up to that, I had basically had 3 weeks where you weren't around, and so it just all kind of culminated, and it was really nice to have just a night to do nothing, and I had kind of forgotten what that was like, so it was really really nice. And so today I'm gonna do some things around the house and unplug and do nothing for basically online stuff. I've got some other online business stuff to take care of in the non-anonymous sphere of things, but I'll get those posts out, and then basically just gonna do some things around the house. I have a bathroom remodel I've got to finish, and I want to get that done. And so I'm gonna basically just take some time and unplug probably all the way until Monday at the very least, I should say, at the very least, and just chill and relax, man. How about yourself?
Yeah, you definitely deserve that, and I see all the work you did, especially with the latest pieces. Like I've told you in private already that I dig that Halloween piece so much. Like I loved it from the very beginning. You sent it over to me. I remember, waking up in the morning. Usually, I get like most your messages when I wake up, because you've worked all day and then you send some stuff over, and I'm like in my bed. I was like, oh damn. I loved like the idea of and the color composition. I think I mentioned it yesterday, like the green and yellow, it worked so good. And like I said, usually I'm not even aware of what you're creating, and so it's always like a little mystery to me as well, and I'm always surprised too. So it's always a cool thing. And before we jump into the art thing, let's maybe, because I've been like grinding on X today a little bit, and I saw some stuff about the election that I wanted to get, like some firsthand information, if that's true or not. I'm not sure if you know, but have you seen the posts that say basically that make it hard for people to vote for Trump? Like um ballots, like showing Trump like on the like downside of the thing where you can basically make your cross and everything. And I've even seen like are that like some sort of iPads or something where they were not able to like click and pick Trump and stuff like that. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but looked crazy to me. So and it looks like something that would be like in America. So yeah, maybe you can tell me something. And did you vote already? You don't have to tell me who you voted for, but did you or not?
Yeah, I've seen some of that stuff, man. I mean, election interference is real. I mean, whether you want to, the thing is, like, every year it's not just this election, it's all, every pretty much every election, there's going to be some form of interference. So this is not a new thing. And the thing that's new this year is this push to have laws that basically demand that you cannot ID someone for who votes. Which, if you go to another country and you start looking at voter laws, like you have to show ID to vote. But it's like this year, California passed a law that demands that no election worker can even ask you for an ID. You can literally just show up and cast a vote, which makes really no sense. Like it's clown world, right? So like in clown world, let's say you have a thing, whether you have a family or a business or a community, right? Just imagine someone came into your family and cast a vote for what you're going to have for dinner. You're like, well, who cares? Like, you're not part of the family. Or it comes into your community and casts a vote for, where the local government's going to spend funds. Well, who cares? You have no stake in the outcome. It's the same thing on the national level, right? Like, who cares? You have no stake in the outcome. Why would I allow you to participate in the process? So I mean, just the sheer lack of reason is the thing that's new, or getting newer, I think, and the sheer amount of gaslighting, saying something didn't happen that did, you know, it's just crazy. I just watched a clip where CNN was accusing Trump of calling for the execution of Dick Cheney's daughter. And then I watched the actual clip of what he said, and what he said was nothing even remotely close to that. It was just the most asinine thing. Like, I mean, you have to be, like deaf, dumb, blind, and stupid to see that there's just, gaslighting left and right. It's ridiculous. So, I mean, for me personally, I don't participate in any of that. I vote philosophy. I don't care about person. And, like when you look at Trump's squad, you got Elon, you got Robert Kennedy, you got Tulsi Gabbard. So you have basically a cross pollination of philosophies and ideologies. And Trump used to be a Democrat as well. So you got Gabbard, Democrat, Robert Kennedy, Democrat, traditionally Democrat. His both, he had his father was assassinated and his uncle was assassinated. They were both Democrats, but they were reasonable people, and that's why they were popular, and that's why they got votes. They were very reasonable, smart people. And so, I mean, this election to me is not even a contest. I don't even know why we're having it. So, I haven't voted yet, but I'll vote next week. I'm not going to do the mail-in thing, but yeah, it's been pretty crazy, man. It's been absolutely crazy to watch it unfold. But the crazy thing has been watching outsiders either have a big opinion about it or not so much of an opinion about it. Because at the end of the day, like, no matter how you slice it, as goes the US, so goes the world. And so if we lose the US, we lose more than just the US. And that's the big challenge that we're facing right now. And I don't think people understand the scale and the scope of that. And this is one of the reasons that I believe that, Elon has gotten involved this year. And one of the reasons that I think it's super super important that he purchased X and basically gave a voice to both sides of the argument. Because I mean, the truth is, like, if someone's making a stupid argument, it's really easy to see through it in time. But if someone is suppressing even stupid arguments and replacing them with just noise, then the way the human mind works is if you hear something long enough, you start to believe it's true. And basically, the major news networks have basically become cheerleaders for one side of the aisle, and that's not right. So at the end of the day, it's a clown show like it always is, and my only stake in the outcome is philosophy. Philosophy needs to win, like right philosophy and right human incentive needs to win. And so long as that's the case, we'll be fine. But we've turned it into, like a circus shot sideshow, and that's not good for anyone. I see Brady. What's up, Brady? How you doing, man? STC, what's going on? Rob, Julian, Bilo. Just wanted to take a moment and say hello. We're just going to chit chat through the day, talk a little bit about Halloween, talk a little bit about Artober and the recap and some plans that are going on. So if anybody wants to step up and say hello, feel free. Would love to hear what you guys are doing for the weekend. So back over to you, Alex.
Yeah, one thing, one post that I was actually reading while you were talking is like, you know, Canadians coming over to the United States being able to vote like multiple times, and is that something that would be possible, or is it like just engagement farming?
It's possible anywhere no ID is required, and unfortunately, basically in the US, the thing is, like, if you look at a state map, you'll see, like the left coast, as we call it, and the Northeast, they always, they're always blue, meaning Democrat. But if you look at a county map, there's no such thing as a blue state. Like even in the blue states, the only blue areas are big cities. So, I mean, there's no blue states in the US at all. But if you can go to Oregon or California, like I said, where California has recently passed law that literally restricts election workers from asking for ID, then yeah, anyone can literally show up and vote. And this is one of the reasons the border has been a huge issue, because if you can import millions of people into your country who have no stake in the outcome and give them the ability to shape the direction of your country, I mean, it speaks volumes for people who support that, right? Like it's crazy. It's literally crazy.
I what I never understood is like, how does that actually, you know, like benefit the Democrats? Because on the other hand, you know, people without IDs could vote for Republicans as well. Like that's what I never got, to be honest. Like, or is it like the immigrants coming in having no ID and usually you vote for Democrats?
I mean, if you're coming in to feed your family, right? Like you're going to vote for whichever party is supporting the most benefits to you. That this is the problem with democracy, right? Like it's so funny. My wife is Canadian. I know Brady's up in Canada. Like when you vote in Canada, you don't vote for a politician, you vote for a party, and then the party puts forth their candidate. So like in Canada, for example, they held an election and I forget, I guess it's the Liberals. The Liberals won, and then they put forth Justin Trudeau, who is a total clown. And his father has a reputation in the country, and he's living off of his father's name. Okay, so fine, cool. In the US, it's different, right? Like in the US, you don't have direct democracy. You vote for your candidate, and then your state's electors put forth votes for that candidate, right? So, like if you're a if you're a Californian, you don't directly vote for president. If you're in Arizona, you don't directly vote for president. Whoever wins the state, the electors for that state are supposed to cast a vote for the presidency, and that's how it works. And the reason for that is to protect the most precious parts of government from mob rule, because that's all democracy is. And you can see very clearly that if you don't have an educated populace, that mob rule can literally be disastrous. And this is why the framers of the Constitution did something so brilliant as to not make the US a democracy. It's a representative republic. And there are parts of democracy, included in that. But the president is not a popular vote situation. And when you look at the three branches of government, you've got the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. The executive branch is the president. It's not a democratic election. And the judicial is not a democratic election. It's appointed. The only democratically elected officials are the Congress, the senators, and the representatives. And this was brilliant. Had never been done before. So it gives everybody kind of the best of both worlds. But if you are able to send the most electors to your candidate, like in the case of California, like California is basically a one-party state, and it used to go both ways, but that hasn't been the case since the border's been open. So when the border is open and you have migrants coming in, and the party that is advertising to them, remember, these people aren't going to sit down and read law books. They're not going to sit down and study philosophy. They're going to say, this group is advertising to me repeatedly. I should believe that this group is going to help me. That's all that they hear, right? It's a total shit show. And so when you hear that repeatedly, you start to believe it. And if you're not going to take time to read and educate yourself, you're just going to pick up, what the zeitgeist is saying, and that's where your vote's going to go. And in a situation where you're not even required to show ID to vote, you're going to vote for whoever you feel like or you believe is going to give you the most benefits. It's that simple, and in the last 2, 3 decades, that's been the left. So free this, free that, free housing, free healthcare, free sex change in prison, you know, whatever the thing is, it's just it's all free. Like nothing bears a cost. So that's uh that's kind of how it works, man.
So, do you think that might also be a reason why all these celebrities are supporting Kamala? I just saw LeBron James today, and I've been wondering, like, these guys are pretty wealthy. Why do you think all these guys are supporting Kamala?
I mean, who knows, man? Honestly, there's a thousand different theories. I mean, the truth is, of late, when you look at the wealthiest people in the world, I think 60 to 70% of them have shown through donation records in terms of like being billionaire status or greater. 67% of them endorse and or vote Democrat. The Democrats have all of the news media, at least 90% of it. They have all of academia, and they have the most money spent on the ground by far. Like it's not even close. And so the fact that if you look at something like Polymarket and Trump's ahead by like, 30 points on Polymarket, and that he's being outspent and outspoken about in so many different venues. I mean, that says a lot about the dissatisfaction and the fact that people are waking up to what the trick has been, the gaslighting. So, why do they do this? I don't really know. I mean, obviously, there's a machine that, keeps people employed or not. You saw this with COVID, right? Like if you had a job and you were demanded to get a COVID vaccine, and the proprietor, or I'm sorry, the person that you worked for said, like a lot of hospitals did this. Like if you're a nurse, you have to get the COVID vaccine or we're going to fire you. Okay, well, if that's your only source of income and the average American has like 500 bucks in their checking account and they're living paycheck to paycheck, and this is true all the way up to something like $250,000 a year because people just continue to expand their lifestyle rather than actually put money away and drive an old car. They just keep updating and upgrading their lifestyles. Then what choice do you have? Like you have to choose into that. And if you are a celebrity and you make money off your name and off the last project that you did, and you're only as good as your last credit, if you lose that job, you might not get another one, right? So, I mean, the idea, or at least the one that's been floated that seems most reasonable, is that the powers that be are pushing this, and that the people who would maybe have a different opinion can't, simply because that's their livelihood. And who knows if that's true or not. But that seems to be the case. It was really kind of funny because Ricky Gervais is probably one of my favorite comedians. He put out a video like today or yesterday. He's like sitting in a bathtub, right? And it's this black and white phone video, where he's like sitting in a bathtub. It's like really up close on his face, and he says, "Hello, this is Ricky G, your favorite makeup and beauty consultant or influencer," or something like that. And then he says something like, as a celebrity, I know everything there is to know about science and politics. And if you don't vote the way that I want you to vote, I'm going to leave your country. How do you feel about that? It was so hilarious, man. You got to go find it. Is because it's such a like a snarky take on like celebrities endorsing politicians and like threatening to leave the country and all this kind of stuff. It's just hilarious, man. But like to see someone at his level of comedy and like star power say something like that, it just points to the fact that obviously even he sees what's going on, right, and sees how ridiculous it is. I mean, the fact that someone would look at someone who has a level of status, and this is like the game online too, right? It's a status game. Like if humans are always looking to greater status individuals for the answers because they feel like they have the answers, but then when you get in the room with like a very wealthy individual or someone who has fame and fortune, you find out they're just people, right? They're just people like everyone else. They're just at a different level at whatever game they're playing, right? And unfortunately, the human animal is programmed to seek status and to follow it. And that's basically, one of the big draws to having an influencer, someone like, like a famous sports figure, or actor, or celebrity or news personality go out and say, "Hey, listen to me, my people," and you're pretty much guaranteed to get those votes. So, it's really kind of interesting to see what it's evolved into, kind of Roman bread and circus, ridiculous nonsense, when the truth is it should be about philosophy. But we have a population that's not educated enough to actually understand philosophy and praxeology, which is human incentive. And so, until it gets back to that, it doesn't really interest me that much. I'm just going to vote for whomever I feel like has the greatest understanding of praxeology and human incentive.
Wasn't Ricky Gervais the one who had that famous Oscar speech?
Oh yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
that was a great one too.
So I was thinking of the right guy. Yeah, sounds like something he would do. Yeah, I mean, I've seen poly markets and everything, and whenever I see celebrities, yeah, promoting Kamala, it's somehow even entertaining, and that's probably like, I'm not sure if it's a good thing, but I know that I will be awake all night on Tuesday because I feel entertained by all the election stuff. Everything Americans do is like a big show. And I remember last time, Trump was constantly posting, tweeting, saying, the election is rigged and stuff like that. Um, and you mentioned it in the very beginning. It's like everything is like a big clown show, but I enjoy like watching it. But Elon keeps on emphasizing like on how significant the election is. So yeah, pretty curious to see the outcome. And do you think X plays a big role, in terms of like putting like Republicans ahead of Democrats this year?
I think any media source that allows conversations to emanate from both sides is important. That's really where it comes down to. If you look at what happened with X, it's really, really, really interesting. And I mean, we're going down this whole sideshow, sidebar thing. But um, before Elon bought Twitter and converted it to X, you had censorship of the right being, basically Twitter's trademark. That was basically what they came down to. Then once Jack sold, he went on a bunch of interviews and basically apologized for the level of involvement that they allowed government and major corporate actors to have in what shaped their platform. I mean, that says a lot, like that someone would actually apologize. And at the end of the day, now when Elon took over and basically said we're going to allow voices from both sides, what you saw happen, I don't think people really understand the ramifications of and how important this is. Like if you have a platform that allows philosophies and conversations to emanate from both sides, then you can get to the bottom of some form of truth because you can measure it against reality. But when you only have one voice shouting at you all the time, the interesting thing about the human mind and the way it works is whatever you think about, you create, and then you'll see in the world. So this most simple example, and the one we use a lot in the mindset training is like, when you want that new car, it's like, oh, I want a new car and I want it to be this particular car and I want it to be this particular color. And before you implanted in your brain that you wanted this particular car, it was never really in your conscious awareness. You just walked around, you never really saw the car. But now everywhere you go, you see that car. It's on every street corner, it's in every parking lot, it's everywhere you go. You see that car because now you're consciously aware it's something that you want. So as humans, we're constantly creating what we think about. And this is the thing that, I think so many people miss when they form an opinion, right? So like if I form an opinion about capitalism, or if I form an opinion about, you know, government handouts, then everywhere I go to see an opportunity to reinforce that opinion, I'm going to reinforce that opinion because my brain is going to show me more opportunities to reinforce that opinion. So, if you control the media, which is what people hear constantly and where most people get their education, unfortunately, if you control academia, right? If you control what happens at the border, if you control what happens at the ballot box, you can very easily create a one party state. And that's Elon's argument, right? His fear is that there'll be a one party state, much like the one that's already been created in California. And it can never be broken until people have time to assimilate and the border is shut off, right? And so his whole argument was like this would be the last election in the US, meaning that this would be the last election where there were more than one option, like more than one viable option. Because obviously, if you have a one party state, there's really no point in having an election because you already know the outcome, right? So the freedom of speech thing, people really do not understand how important it is. People do not understand how important the US Constitution is. If you go to other countries, for example, there is no guarantee of free speech in most countries. There is no guarantee of free press in most countries. Like even Canada to the north, me and my wife talk about this all the time. There's no guarantee of free speech in Canada. And if at any point I decide that what you're saying is not something that I want other people to hear and I'm in a position of power to shut it down, and I shut that down, now I've basically closed off the potential for any and all arguments to the contrary. And now all you're going to hear is the same thing repeated over and over again from the powerful mouthpieces. And again, that forms an opinion in the mind of the hearer in this case, and that perception is projected into the world everywhere you go, right? So that's the importance of the freedom of speech thing. There's a reason that the US Bill of Rights, if you will, is freedom of speech, First Amendment, Second Amendment, freedom of speech, freedom to bear arms. Like at the end of the day, these things are what guarantee a populace will not be subject to a politician. And most countries do not have that. And that's the importance of both. So there's your top level civics lesson.
Yeah, man. Oh, man. I mean, Tuesday seems to be very important, like in terms like for the future of the United States, and yeah, can't wait. But there are also some people out there thinking that this election will cause heavy effects on crypto markets. What do you think about that?
Well, it definitely will, for sure. I mean, the interesting thing about what's happening with the two party system here is that, when Trump ran in whatever year it was, 16, was it 16? I guess, he was not pro crypto, and then now he's changed his stance and he's pro crypto. But I don't think anyone was pro crypto back then. I think everyone saw it as a scam. But still to this day, the left side of the aisle is more resistant to the idea of a free market in crypto than the right side. So if Trump gets put in office versus Harris, you're going to see very different policies. You're going to see very different accountability structures. You're going to see very different tax structures. I mean, the Democrats are talking about taxing people on unrealized gains. So imagine that you hit it big in one of these, tokens, and you've done really well, but you haven't actually sold and realized a gain yet. It's still at play in the marketplace. So in other words, everything you still have is at risk. Well, they want to tax you on that before you've ever even assumed the gain, which to me just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So, I mean, you'll definitely see very different policies, and you'll see very different invasions, so to speak, of your wallet and your privacy, and what will be allowed to exist and what won't be allowed to exist, right? So, yeah, it will absolutely have a dramatic impact on crypto.
Yeah, man, I guess so as well. As time is flying a little bit, let's definitely jump into Artober. We wanted to speak a little bit on the art. I'm not sure if Tom is showing up today. He might like be confused a little bit about the clock change and the time change here. But yeah, let's jump into the first piece that has been released. I think last week we spoke about Darius Under the Veil piece. She was here with us, and after that, we had the Liquid Ladies drop, which was not from Maria, basically. I think some people thought that. It was fully designed by you. So you can maybe speak a little bit about like what you thought about like creating it, and also the variant. I saw that some people were not aware, like, okay, where is that coming from? And I remember you sending me both pieces, and I pretty much had the same opinion that I think you had. That I felt like, all right, this piece matches the former piece so good, but the other piece is stronger. So yeah, tell me about your thoughts.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, art this past month has been, crazy, crazy, crazy on the schedule everywhere I looked. So, lots of creation, lots of reasons to create this season. Whether it was celebrating milestones or celebrating min outs, every piece that we put forth, minted out again. We've acquired some new collectors. Some came from Stargaze. We got we basically ended the month with 10 days straight of like just artwork specific work. And the interesting thing was a lot of it hinged on things we had done in the past to build to this place, right? So the first piece that you mentioned, the samurai, basically the samurai warrior that was first released, was designed to be a pair with the piece that Maria and I originally collabed on, where she did the Oni mask and she did the background. And so basically from her piece, I took the background and then built a piece on top of it in mail form. And so for those of you guys, in the community who were curious as to why that would be, like we have plans for this, right? So you saw the Wolverine piece, the X-23 piece, right? You saw that pair. You saw the Stormtrooper balloon and the Princess Leia balloon pair, right? And you saw now the collab piece with the Oni mask and the samurai piece that I did as well. And what happens is like if you own both of those NFTs, excuse me, if you own both those NFTs and you download them and you put them together in a photo editor, they literally fit together seamlessly into one full piece. And so the idea was like, what if you had NFTs that weren't just singular NFTs, right? Like it's cool to have a singular NFT and we can do a lot with it. Like we've been talking with Tom about doing, digital matter theory on Bitcoin and other chains, Solana, Stargaze. It's all possible there. And, we're obviously going to be building out the ladies on Stargaze. So we talked about, um, more batch mints, which maybe Brady can tell us if that's coming in anytime in the near future because we need to get something going there. Because we want to add to those collections, but we also want to add a version of bosses, female bosses, which we might be able to employ digital matter theory with. And digital matter theory opens up a ton of doors. But before I digress, like the whole idea was like if you have a singular piece, does it have to be a singular piece? And the question was, easily answered. No, it doesn't. Like, so if I have multiple pieces, can I fit them together almost like a puzzle that's seamless? Then and make it a little bit, more gamified, a little bit more fun. That would be awesome. So that was the idea behind these pairs. And so far, there's 3 pairs, and I think they're online. Maybe we can pin them to the top. But those 3 pairs, the whole idea is if you collect both pieces and you get the numbers, like matching pieces, matching numbers. So let's say, for example, like I'm collecting the number sevens, right? So if I have the 7 female and the 7 male, what I want to be able to do is have the collector be able to request a special piece of art that incorporates them both and send them back as a reward, like another NFT that contains both of those pieces seamlessly joined, but as part of a larger composition. So does that make sense? Am I just kind of talking crazy?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely makes sense. And I loved that you introduced the idea back then with the X-Men pieces actually. And it's I'm not sure if it's my favorite so far still, but I love that that you need the other piece to complete the X in the background, and that is so great. So yeah, definitely dig that idea, and I definitely love the Katana duo as well. Um, but yeah, what about the variants? So you haven't talked about that one yet?
So the variant. So the variant piece is basically an idea that comes from like comics and action figures. So a lot of times when there's a special event or a significant issue or a special release of a figure, what will happen is the creator will release multiple versions of it. And so the multiple versions, you'll have the original, and then you'll have what they call variants. And usually the variant covers or figures are usually more rare. They're more hard to find, or they cost more. There's something about them that bears a greater cost, but they're usually very much in terms of like desirability, they're very much higher, right? So like maybe the artwork is cooler, or maybe the figure is more detailed, or whatever the case may be. It's just like having additions of a vehicle. It's like there's different trim levels or whatever, right? So the idea behind the second piece was, again, just to reward holders, right? Like, what if I wasn't limited by the piece that Maria and I did in terms of background coloration? What would I do if I just had a free hand, right? And I started with the same base. So basically, I took the same base and I updated the background to make it more like give it a greater contrast with like the red and the blue. And then the jacket that has so much detail with the dragon on the lapels, like that. I don't even know if people have blown this thing up and looked at it, but like if you blow up that figure and look at it, the detail on the lapels of that jacket is insane. Like it's just amazing. Like two fire breathing dragons um, designed that small or built that small into the piece. The quality of the artwork is just off the charts. So, okay, well, those dragons are breathing fire. The fire has like a yellow tinge to it. Okay, well, in this particular case, I would much rather have a sword with a gold inlay, and I'd rather have a facial feature with some sort of gold or yellow in it, right? And it has a nice little contrast with the black conical hat and then the red and blue background. It's like all of this thought went into the composition to see like how could I elevate it, right? Like that's the question around the variant, right? How could I elevate the piece? And so if it's just basically what I would have done had I been able to sit down and design from scratch. And so that's the variant piece. And then of course the idea of course is like if someone took the time and the energy, like STC is like collector du jour, like the queen of collectors, right? And like Belo's out there promoting collecting. I'm out there promoting collecting. Like there's a lot of us out there who really just love the art of collecting, and this the fun of it's like the fun of the acquisition and the fun of the hunt, right? So if I took all this energy and effort to acquire all seven of Maria's pieces, and then in addition to that, I picked up the first bonus, and I picked up, like the samurai, right? Like after going through whatever that is, 7, 8 pieces now, to be rewarded with like a variant, like an elevation of that, I think is just a nice way of saying thank you. Like really appreciate you guys who are in the trenches, like doing the actual work and performing the art of collecting, right? And so it's nothing to sit down and spend hours on a piece just to say thank you. And that's really what the variant was. It's just a thank you is really the best way to put it. And so dropping that on people who collected all those pieces, and then seeing people, kind of like work to acquire those pieces so that they get the drop, like just all part of the fun of gamifying NFTs and bringing the fun back, because so much of it is people get so serious and like, what's this utility and that utility, and they forget the fun of collecting, and the gamification of collecting is really what drew me in the first place, because I never had faith in any of these projects. It's just like, okay, does this piece have laser eyes? That's all I bought when I started. Does that piece have laser eyes? Does that piece have laser eyes, right? Like, I don't care if it's 2 cents or $200. Do I like it? Does it have laser eyes, right? And then of course, your tastes evolve over time. But yeah, it's just a big way of saying, hey, appreciate you guys, love you guys, want you to have something beautiful. And I really don't mind putting in the time and effort to get you something of super high quality and just drop it on you, right? Like I feel like it's just a nice thing to do, it just brings some of the fun back.
Yeah, man, I get that. And I remember when I started, looking through all these, like back then when I looked for people who will be eligible for Daria's bonus drop, I was basically going through every holder. I was going to Magic Eden and check every single piece and see if that particular wallet holds all the required pieces. And whenever I pressed on like on a piece and followed the link, and I saw like a wallet with like tons of laser eyes, I was like, okay, that's Jason's wallet. And I definitely saw that you were in love with all these pieces. But yeah, I like I said, I think the variant was very strong, and I feel like it was a great gift for people. When I see such stuff happening on other projects, I feel like when they're like gifting something to their community, it sometimes feels like it's leftovers. So yeah, we had that. So you can mint it if you want, but like I said, I felt like that piece was even stronger than the so-called main piece. So it was great. I think the people loved it, and I definitely want to talk about the Halloween piece as well. So, when you think about creating a Halloween piece, what's going on in your mind? Like, do you sit down, think about, hey, I could do this or that? Did you have like the Medusa in your head from the very beginning, or do you have like other sketches? Maybe like are there other pieces that could have been the result? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. Just want to say hello to Marilda. Hopefully, I'm saying your name right. Appreciate you dropping by. And Brady, if you can speak and maybe we could ask a couple questions on the Stargaze appendable stuff. That would be awesome. Not sure if you're able to or not. But yeah, so the Halloween stuff, right? Like the um, the whole idea behind Halloween, right, or behind anything is like, what is the trite way of celebrating it, and then how can we not be that, right? So like the trite way of celebrating Halloween is always the same. It's always skulls, skeletons, jack-o'-lanterns, the usual suspects, right? Like it's the thing that every child thinks of, which is cool. It just doesn't require a lot of thought because it's always in your face, right? So when I was doing the Halloween pieces, whether it was the Invisible Man piece, right? Like a lot of people don't know that old movie. Like there's an old movie called The Invisible Man, and it was a horror movie, right? It wasn't just like a funny costume that you put on when you were, little or what have you, with bandages on your face. Like it was a pretty terrifying horror movie at the time. So putting some thought into, okay, what is one of the references to horror that isn't blood and guts and skeletons and mutilated human bodies and all the rest of it? I mean, because to be honest with you, like I cannot stand seeing the human body destroyed. I do not like those slasher movies and Texas Chainsaw Massacres and like all that crap. Like I really can't stand it. So, what could I do that's different? All right. So that's where like the Invisible Man came from, right? The Purge piece, like that's again another piece from like a piece of film that had a very significant look to it. Like it's very striking when you see it. Like that you know what it references and you see it. This piece as well, like we're going back to Greek myth. Okay, so what is probably one of the scariest Greek myth characters you could think of? Well, okay, let's think of the story of Medusa. Like Medusa was like this beautiful woman who seduced, I forget which god it was, but it was a situation where Athena got jealous and cursed Medusa, right? Basically took this beautiful creature and made her this thing with snakes in her hair that if you look upon her, you turn to stone, right? So imagine being like, one of the most sought after, beautiful creations on the planet, and you took like pride and you took sort of like this. Um, you valued yourself based on the fact that people would look upon you, right? That's the idea behind beauty, and then you turn that on its head and now you take that away from that person, right? Or you take that away from that god in this particular case. No one could look upon her, and if they do, they're dead. Right? That's pretty freaky, man, when you think about it, right? So no wonder she'd be pissed off. I can imagine something like that happening, right? And it kind of reminds me of some of the old like romance stories from like the 80s and 90s. Like one of the best love stories I think from that era is called Lady Hawk. you know there's a knight and a woman, and there's a priest who wants the woman and he can't have her, and so he curses her that during the daytime she turns into a hawk, right? And during the nighttime, the guy is turns into a wolf. So the only time they can ever actually see each other is at daybreak and sunset, and it's only for like a split second that they're human, and then they turn into their opposite animals. So they're always the opposite creature. It's like things like this that require a little bit of thought, a little bit of like care, and a little bit of understanding of some of the greater human values. These are what interest me more than anything. So the Medusa piece evolved from that, right? And like going back to that myth, that Greek myth that is so prevalent, like that we studied when we were in school, and probably never thought about it again until last week when I was working on this piece. So that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah, and as I said, I really love that piece. I dig it so much. I think you forgot to mention the Joker piece when you just mentioned all the pieces we had so far, and the Joker piece is very special to me as well because it's actually the only Goodfellas piece that has some sort of a face. So yeah, I just made a post today about all the Halloween pieces we had, and I think it's definitely a tradition, I look forward to keep. So yeah, like I said, I love the Medusa piece. So we got Brady here. Welcome, Brady. How are you doing?
Good. I actually have to. Can I? I have to start MySpace in like 2 minutes. But I wanted to hop up just because you said you had a question, so I've just been waiting. I can answer quickly if you have anything. But good to see you guys. I was enjoying listening to you. Thanks.
Yeah, I think Jason wanted to ask something about the appendable collections, but if you're in a rush, no worries, man. We can definitely set up a space and then speak with each other.
Yeah, for sure. I was just curious about the appendability conversation. I know we had it way back when, and I think you said it was on the agenda, but I never heard if it was finalized or what was going on with that. So I was curious if you had the inside track.
Yeah, like the one of one collection that you have, it's appendable. You can mint new NFTs to your wallet. There's no public mint phase for those, so it'd be something where they have to go to a set, if they sell on secondary or do as a drop or something else. As far as adding appendable appendable mints that have a public mint attached to them, that is something that actually we were just discussing a few days ago, and the team's looking into like how it'll work with the contracts. So some progress on there. This stuff is it's all in the mix with like a lot of different requests and demands from different creators, but it is something that kind of came up higher on the agenda this week. So hopefully I can give a good update on it progress wise. Maybe in a week or two. But I know that Sirkin is working on it right now. Who is one of the is like kind of the primary smart contract developer for Launchpad.
Awesome, man. So I'm just curious if like on the existing unappendable public mint collections, do you know if those are going to be converted to appendable, or is it going to be something that you would have to like literally move everything over to another contract or collection or something like that?
At this point, it would probably be something. I mean, it's actually not popular, because it carries risk in a way for holders. For a lot of collections, they want them to be a static amount, as opposed to the creator having the singular ability to expand the quantity of that collection and thus dilute value for holders. Well, I understand you guys have like a different model, right? So it is something that I think there's like a little bit of there's things to think about there, but it would be something where same as in Studio, if you have to update a collection, what you do is you just go into Studio. If you have the admin, if you're the creator of the collection, it's just like a couple clicks in there where you migrate it to be an updatable collection. That from that point onwards, you're able to update the metadata or update like the imagery in the collection. It would be similar to that. At the end, it would be something where you migrate your collection to be appendable, which would then allow it to go back into like another mint phase. But again, this is something that they're just working on. So when it comes to the final form in UI, that's a little bit further down the road, and I can't speak with like total specificity on it. But I gotta jump to mine. I hope that was like helpful at least for now.
Yeah, super helpful, man. I appreciate you
Okay.
jumping in there for sure.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. You have a great day.
You too, bud. We'll talk soon. So that'll be awesome because then we can now build into the Stargaze side, build on the females there, and continue to append those collections. Um, the interesting thing about this conversation around dilution which I think Brady just kind of touched on. I think we're going to have to just do like a whole space on that because like the truth is whether or not you append to one collection or you have to create a second collection, it's still the same number of pieces. So if you're following a particular collector, I'm sorry, a particular creator, you're going to have the same effect regardless. The only problem is it places a strain on the creator. Um, so I don't really understand that argument from a like a buyer standpoint, especially if you're building value into what you're doing. But I can see how if you're not, it could be a big problem if you're just dumping a bunch of trash on the market. So, I mean, like I saw a couple of collections released, like Fada was one of them. Like Fada released 5,000 pieces, right? But then when you looked at the mint, they actually gave away 2,500 of them. So 2,500 of the pieces were just giveaways, and the rest was a mint for like, a couple bucks. It was a really inexpensive mint. So when you do that, that to me is dilution because you've created a lot of pieces that weren't actually invested in. And so the market didn't tell you that they wanted them. And so now, of course, after they're mint, the price fell, significantly. And that's generally what we see happening. So I think like if at the end of the day we're doing appendable collections, but we're making sure that we're building value into what we're doing and growing the community appropriately, that the community will tell you like when you're reaching the peak. It will also tell you when you need to start bringing in new people and marketing to a broader audience. And so I think this is the piece that's currently missing from Web3, whereby people just assume that the existing population is going to be static rather than actively seeking to grow the population, which is kind of our role here, right? Like if we want NFTs and Web3 to be widely accepted, then we have to be the best promoters of it. And honestly, Web3 people have not done a good job of this. It's like one developer showing out for another developer in a lot of cases, or one artist showing out for another artist in some cases. Um, Joe, I think Joe, one of our other bosses, posted on his timeline. He was talking about Cosmos and, or no, Cardano, which is kind of almost like a failed project at this point. They've basically fallen drastically. But basically, the Cardano argument was we're going to be able to interoperate with Bitcoin, and you know, I'm like, okay, why? Like, why does Cardano need to be interoperable with Bitcoin? I mean, we can already do swaps. We can do whatever we need to do. Why do I need to hold Bitcoin on Cardano? Why would I take something from the most secure network in the world and put it on a less secure, less popular network? Right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And like, they're all excited about it. Like, this is the big press release. We're going to have interop with Bitcoin. It's like, okay, well, that's a cool technical advance, but what does it give the end user? Well, you can do wrapped Bitcoin. Well, why would I want to do wrapped Bitcoin? Why would I want to take, again, like the most secure, safe, stable asset in the world and put it on something that isn't? It doesn't make any sense. But if you're a developer and you want to show what you can do, it's like really cool. It's like, hey, look what I can do. And I may get that. I kind of like to show off sometimes too. But I think in Web3, we're not listening to the user. Like the user wants a better experience. They want smoother experiences, which is one of the things I'm discussing with Floppy right now. I'm basically saying, listen, we've got to get this fixed. We've got to make sure that the tech works, or we're going to need to leave the platform or buy the platform and fix it. Right. And this is a conversation because we want the end user to have a good experience. I'm not just here to show, oh, well, yeah, I can stake on Floppy. Okay, cool. Well, that's fine. But it still needs to be a good experience, right? And like Bilo the other day had trouble unstaking. I had trouble unstaking. And so I'm talking to the founder this morning, and I'm like, guys, this still is, it's not working. I've been, after this for a year now, and we're not getting any progress. So like I need you to move on this, or I need you to unstake all my pieces, and I need to find a service or create a service that's actually going to serve my people. And I think that's the stance that a lot of founders don't yet have. It's like, how can I greater serve my people? And I feel like every day I wake up, I really am looking for that in the world of Web3. Like in our space, we're serving collectors, we're serving people who want to be here a while. But at the end of the day, like, how can we serve them greater is the question that very few people are answering.
Yeah, man. Regarding Cardano, I think what I read is that they want to become some sort of, layer two from Bitcoin. And to me, it felt like, everyone wants like a piece of, Bitcoin seems to be like the safe haven now, as so many big institutions are investing. It's obviously like, especially now, when while we have that big discussion of DeFi being useless, people are scared or frightened of their altcoins not going up again. And as you said, Cardano seemed to be a failed project until now. I'm not sure if that changes now, but yeah, let's see what happens, man. Let's see what happens. I actually wasn't even aware of the Invisible Man that you just mentioned, that it was a movie. I somehow thought that it was based on a book, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, there's a book too. I think emanated from a book, but it became a movie like back in the day. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, I think, I've seen this in more and more people, but this is what I'm going to do in the next run. Like in the next run up, like of all the altcoins that I hold that aren't Solana, ETH, or Bitcoin or Stacks. Like Stacks is great because you can actually stake Stacks and earn Bitcoin, which is like Bitcoin already has a layer two. So if we're talking about Cardano or something else being a layer two to Bitcoin, who cares? Like Stacks is already doing it and they're already doing it better. They've already got everything set up, and you can stake your Stacks and earn sats, which is amazing. That's what you want to do, right? So in the next run up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let Cardano go as high as I think it's going to go, and then I'm going to sell it and I'm going to forget about it. I'm never going to look back, and I'm going to do that for every altcoin that's not moving, to provide value to the end user. So basically, in the next run up, what I think a lot of people are going to do is they're going to consolidate. And I think this is where, we started talking about this on the podcast, right? Like at some point, the value provision is going to be honed down to very few projects and very few chains doing very specific things. Our very specific thing is high quality work in the hands of high quality holders, guaranteed IP rights, and we'll build utility on top of that. But that's not our core, right? We're going to build on that, but that's not our core. Our core is an IP licensing business, which will generate revenue for our holders. But over time, what will happen is everyone who can't stay in the game or isn't committed or isn't willing to do the work will fall by the wayside or be forced to fall by the wayside. And again, you start to see consolidation. And that's when you start to see like long-term projects really propelled to the stratosphere. That's what we're going to be doing. And Cardano, for example, while the technology might be fantastic, it doesn't do anything that every other chain doesn't already do better. Okay, now the people who believe in it might think differently, but the market has already decided that that's the case. So in the next run up, I'm selling it. I'm selling it. I'm selling it, and I'm selling it. I'm selling like Algorand and all these other little tokens that I hold. The next run up, all that stuff gets sold, and in the next bear, it's going to be forgotten, and you'll see a massive consolidation. So you're looking at Bitcoin, you're looking at Solana, you're looking at Ethereum, and Ethereum is in trouble because they switched from proof of work to proof of stake, and Solana is doing it better. Okay, so eventually I might even drop my Ethereum, but you're going to see Bitcoin, you're going to see Sol, you're going to see Ethereum, you're going to see projects like Stargaze be successful because again, they're very specific in what it is that they're doing. They're honing in on the artwork side of things, and that is super super smart. And then, as the market consolidates, the people who want to take part on those specific activities will gravitate to those specific areas. And this happens in all markets. Like it's not, this isn't unknown, in the business world at all. So I think this next run up is going to start to prove that out. Now, I could be wrong. I'm certainly not a magician and I don't see the future. And, my magic 8 ball doesn't work very well. So, don't listen to me, but that's just what I think is going to happen.
Yeah, man, I agree. I mean, always, no financial advice, but I think Matic is another example of a project that kind of failed and will probably be gone by the next bull run. And I do agree on all you said about altcoins. I'll probably, sell them all once we see another run up and stick to the ones I really believe in, and that's basically Bitcoin and Solana. I'm not sure if there will ever be, like, probably there will, like, some projects show up and maybe do another good thing. But I think we should definitely stop believing that, in every cycle, every single coin is going to go up and like make hundred of X's. So yeah, I mean, in a year from now, we are going to be a lot like we will be a lot we will be a lot smarter. We will see what happened. We will see if the cycle held, and yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to the election in a couple of days. Looking forward to watch The Invisible Man in a couple of hours. So hope you can recommend that. And I think we should be good for today, right?
Yeah, man, absolutely. I hope everyone in earshot of my voice goes out and has a fantastic weekend, unplugs, checks into the real world, touches base with real human beings, hugs someone, does a little dance, makes a little love, have some fun, Um, take some time and enjoy life a little bit, man. Like, it's like I say all the time, Goodfellas is gonna be here on Monday. You don't have to worry about us. So, like, here, go have some fun, check in with your people, touch some grass, or in my case, remodel your bathroom, Or I could use some help, by the way. I'm in North Phoenix. If anybody's nearby, if you want to come help me, lay some tile, I could definitely use some help. Got the tile saw all set up in the backyard. Everything's ready to go. I'll even feed you if you want to come by. So, so come on over.
Sounds like a good deal, actually. Sounds like a good deal. Oh, when you just mentioned Goodfellas, I have to admit that, when I was flying back from the United States, and shame on me, but when I watched the Goodfellas movie for the first time on the plane.
Are you serious?
I'm actually serious, yeah. I'm actually serious. And I see that I actually, like, I love watching these 80s, 90s movies because, like, another movie I actually fell in love with is, I'm not sure if you know it, but you probably will. And I have to think of the name, the English name. I think it's like Shawshank Redemption.
Oh yeah, man. Shawshank is amazing. What a
Yeah,
fantastic
right.
movie. Yeah. It's so,
And
man, so heartbreaking, like the injustice that that character goes through. But yeah, Shawshank is amazing. Absolutely
And,
amazing.
when you think of, like, the technology, and you see how they make movies nowadays, and I still feel like there is a whole different vibe around these movies in the 80s and 90s, and it's like, in some way it's even better, but
It totally is,
just my
man.
2 cents.
Yeah, no doubt about it, bro. Like if you, didn't grow up and, have the experience of 80s movies, you should definitely like just, hit a website and, like do like a top 10 or a top 100 80s movies or something. Just go watch them, bro, cuz like the the attitude and the vibe at the time was so positive and so good, right? Like like the especially like the love stories, like the love stories were so positive and so good, like a lot of times I'll tell my wife like I was born in the wrong era because I wanted to be born in an era where like women were cherished and loved and like men were respected and they did the right thing, and they stood up for their communities and for their families and they fought for what was right, and we've lost a sense of that in the last couple of years here, the last couple decades. We've lost a sense of who we were, at least in America. We've been told that Americans are evil and that the country was founded on slavery and that you're horrible and this and that and the other thing. And while some of that is true, like it doesn't erase the fact that there was a lot of positive things at the same time. And it seems like this sort of, you know, just this sort of, white out of history where like we're going to just avoid certain parts of the story is has sort of taken hold, and it's caused people to not necessarily feel as proud or as, what would be the word, as grateful to be in the situation that they're in. Like, and if you look at any country, right, like France, for example, or Germany, like pick a time period. There's going to be a time period in that country's history that wasn't all that great, but there's also going to be time periods in those countries that were amazing, like absolutely amazing. And the bad doesn't negate the good. you know it's just that we need to focus on the good and make it bigger, And it feels like in the States, like in the 80s, like we were celebrating like American exceptionalism. And so if you go back and you look at those movies, especially the love stories or like the adventure stories, you know, like the Top Guns and the Say Anything, like Say Anything is one of the best movies ever. Breakfast Club, like all these movies, they just tap into something, man, was like more fresh and more innocent. And dude, it's so cool when you see something like Stranger Things, like the TV show Stranger Things that usually, you know, for the last few years was released on Halloween. Like it tapped into that 80s vibe. And then there was a bunch of other TV shows that tapped into that 80s vibe as well, where kids didn't have cell phones and you rode your bike everywhere and, you know, you were hanging out with your friends and you were plugged into the real world, you know? Like that was the vibe. That was what you did. And so, yeah, for sure, go back and check out those movies. You definitely will not be disappointed at all.
Yeah, as I was like born in the early 90s, and most people still do not consider me young anymore, but I still feel like, I missed the best times. And I'm not sure. Sometimes I wonder if, like, all I see from the 60s, 70s, 80s, it's obviously film footage. So when I see that, I feel like, these times must have been great, but I'm not sure if I actually witnessed it, I would have felt the same. But you know older people always say like the good old times. So yeah, 80s would have been cool. I would have loved that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a tendency to romance like the old days, you know, like but I mean, there's factual measure, you know, there's factual measurements that you can use. Like, I don't want to go back to you know, like the days where you had to wake up at 4:30 in the morning and run a plow in a field all day with a mule, you know, like, you know, there's a certain amount of, you know, nostalgia that creeps in, but there's also a certain amount of reality. Like, I think what was so special about like the 70s, like late 70s, 80s, early 90s was like there was a sense that the like at the end of the 60s and going into the 70s and 80s, like that was almost like a time of like the last time of innocence for youth in the US. I think that was kind of the sense of it. At least when I talk to people, that's kind of what I understand, you know, from that era. And that's something that you know, once innocence is lost, you can never get it back. You know, so you had all those great movies like Stand by Me and, you know, all of them, pick one, The Sandlot, you know, all these great movies where kids are exploring and having adventures. But today, like if you wake up and you're 12 years old and you've got a phone, you know, you can basically explore the entire world and never leave the living room. But you're just doing it in video. So you're not getting the same experience. You're not getting the same interactions, which is kind of sad. And of course, depression numbers have gone through the roof, especially for young girls, ever since the advent of Instagram and the forward facing camera, because the way girls and guys fight is different, you know, like girls engage in more reputation damage and it's really easy to do that online. So we've seen a lot of depression and suicide numbers go up for young girls. Guys more face to face, more confrontational, and they fight and then they shake hands and they're friends after. It's kind of how it works. So, but in both populations, we've seen a lot of negative things happen. So, you know, that time of like interacting with people, of innocence, like that time is gone. And so I think right now parents and, you know, older people have to figure out a way to allow young people to have a childhood. And it's one of those things where no one really knows how to do it yet. You know, there's some undercurrents of like free range parenting is kind of the term that's coming into fashion, like free range parenting, let your kids explore the world. But yeah, I think parents and teachers and older people are gonna have to figure out how to let kids have a childhood, and that's gonna be hard when they have access to everything. So who knows what that'll look like? But anyway, I know we got to get out of here, but I want to acknowledge just a couple people, and we're going to do this in a bigger space when we promote this a little bit more. Bilo, so just want to welcome you to the team, brother. Pierre, out in France, you are a rock star, brother. Appreciate everything that you're doing for the project, and appreciate the fact that you stepped up and decided to join the team in terms of creating more promotion and more awareness for the project. I know that you have a lot of connections and a lot of ideas, and I just want to celebrate you for that and let you know that you are greatly, greatly appreciated. And we'll do this again in a more public sphere because I really want to acknowledge you. And STC, I want to acknowledge you as well. We're actually creating an award and we haven't actually come up with a good name for it yet. But since it's kind of just us and we're in this intimate setting, we are creating some sort of award or recognition for what we consider to be like the master collector. And we don't know what we're going to call it yet. But ever since you've joined the project, you've been active on X, like sharing the artwork, spreading the love, being an active member of the community, helping people out. I mean, you've helped me get pieces, you've helped other people get pieces. And, we want to acknowledge you as that particular collector for 2024. And we're going to do this every single year. And it's going to come with a separate Discord role. It's going to come with some perks, and we haven't sorted all that out yet. But I wanted to acknowledge you as well and just let you know how much we appreciate you and how much, the entire team, the artwork, the artists, all of us just appreciate the fact that there are people in the world like you who are really diving deep into the world of collecting fantastic art and getting the word out. And so at some point, hopefully we can have a conversation and get to know you and hear your voice. But I just wanted to acknowledge you publicly because this is coming. I think I said I was going to do it yesterday. And honestly, I just crashed after the mint. I totally fucking crashed and hung out with wifey. But yeah, all the love to you for everything that you're doing in addition. And we're looking forward to really continuing to grow in the coming year. So we'll have some more announcements coming out for what we're going to have planned for November. And we'll get more formal announcements out. But since it was just a nice little intimate group here, I wanted to acknowledge both you and Pierre and just say thank you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Alex.
Dude, that were like the most beautiful final words. What can I say now? So yeah, I 100% agree. Thanks to you both, to the both of you. And yeah, Jason and I, we will meet on Monday, deciding on the plans for November and the end of the year. Looking forward to that. As we said, we will drop by the Discord and keep all you guys updated. We look forward to keep on being with you guys, to get to know you guys better. We always love when we hear Bilo's French accent. I know he doesn't like to speak on the mic, but we'll get him there. As Jason mentioned, we'd love to speak to STC obviously as well. I'm always so happy when we have mints and you see all these people showing up. I think I saw Chaz, Charlie, all these guys. It's so good to have them. And I mean, sometimes you can get the wrong feeling of you need that like big activity in the Discord, and people have to show up and be there all the time. But it's not that. It's like about the important moments. I know that most of you read all the stuff we post when we have announcements. You're there for the important moments, for the when we drop things, when we make big announcements, when we are on spaces and stuff like that. We know that you do not spend like 24 hours on Discord and have all that time. We all have our lives. We all have stuff to do. So we acknowledge, and we are very, like, we appreciate very much that you guys are around. So coming to an end here, I know we've lost ourselves in the topics a little bit, kind of went to old movies and psychology and everything. We hope to have video spaces soon. That would be cool, I think. And in that sense, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Jason, take some time off. Enjoy time, touch some grass, do your workouts. I know you run a lot in the morning. I haven't gotten like a voice. Usually I got like back in the days I got voice messages from you early in the morning when you were walking. I miss that because you were like heavy breathing, and then you told me about your plans. So do that, definitely, man. I miss that. And yeah, looking forward to next week, looking forward to the podcast recording. And this should be it, man. Have oh, you unmuted your mic. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I'll definitely get back on that morning routine thing. I lost it, man. I was like literally working like 18, 20-hour days, sleeping like 4 to 6 hours a night. Obviously, that's not sustainable. And so, but yeah, I'll get back to the morning routine thing here shortly. In November, we're doing a lot with code, guys. So just probably a lot more behind the scenes stuff. And also just got a message from Tom who said he was running late from work. So he wasn't able to join us, but he's apologizing right now in the messages. So we'll get the spaces back. I know Halloween was awesome for everybody. Hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. And yeah, again, Pierre, STC, much love to you guys. Appreciate you both. Rob, Julian, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Have a good one.